The power of silence. He used to share everything, every idea, every plan, every pain, every small victory. If something happened in his life, someone else knew about it within minutes. He thought this was honesty. He thought this was openness. He thought this made him strong. But slowly, something strange began to happen. Every time he shared a dream, it felt lighter in his mouth, but heavier in his heart. Every time he spoke about his plans, his energy dropped. Every time he explained himself, he felt smaller, not bigger. People listened. Some nodded. Some smiled. Some gave advice he never asked for. Some laughed politely. Some doubted quietly. And after every conversation, he felt tired. At first, he blamed himself. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I expect too much. Maybe I should talk more clearly. So he shared even more. He explained deeper. He justified longer. He opened wounds that were not healed yet. But instead of relief, he felt exposed. Not understood. Not supported. Just exposed. One day, after a long conversation, where he talked and talked and talked, he went home and sat in silence. The room was quiet. No voices. No opinions. No reactions. And for the first time in a long while, he felt calm. That moment confused him. Silence felt better than being heard. He started to observe something important. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not everyone needs to know what you are building. Not everyone is safe for your pain. Some people listen only to judge. Some listen to compare. Some listen to feel superior. Some listen just to talk about you later. This was not evil. It was human nature. He realized that sharing everything was not honesty. Sometimes it was insecurity, a need for validation, a need to be seen, a need to be reassured. And those needs are normal, but feeding them constantly makes you weak. Silence, he discovered, was not emptiness. Silence was protection. When he stopped sharing, something changed. His thoughts became clearer. His goals became stronger. His emotions became calmer. He no longer needed approval to continue. He no longer needed agreement to move forward. He no longer needed permission to grow. He learned to sit with his ideas, to let them grow quietly, to protect them until they were strong enough to stand on their own. He noticed that when he spoke less, people listened more. When he explained less, he felt more confident. When he stayed quiet, his presence became heavier. Silence gave him space. Space to think. Space to plan. Space to heal. This was not about becoming cold or distant. It was about becoming intentional. He chose carefully what to share, with whom, and when. Some conversations disappeared from his life, and surprisingly, he didn't miss them. Because in silence, he found something rare: focus. And focus is where real growth begins. This was the beginning, not of isolation, but of strength. When silence makes others uncomfortable, when he started speaking less, people noticed. Not because he announced it, not because he explained it, but because silence is loud to those who expect noise. At first, the reactions were small. Why are you so quiet these days? You don't talk like before. Is everything okay? He smiled and said nothing important. Because he was learning something new. You do not owe everyone an explanation. Some people were confused by his silence. Others were uncomfortable. A few became distant. And that taught him a hard truth. Not everyone liked him for who he was. Some liked him for what he gave. Attention, energy, information. When he stopped giving those things freely, the relationship changed. This hurt at first. He questioned himself. Am I becoming rude? Am I pushing people away? Am I wrong for protecting my space? But then, he looked closer. The people who truly cared stayed. They did not demand answers. They did not pressure him to speak. They respected his silence. The others faded, and that silence revealed what words never could. He realized something important. Silence removes masks. When you stop talking, people show their intentions. Some only want access. Some only want control. Some only want comparison. Silence takes away their power. He noticed how often people speak just to feel important. How often they interrupt to be heard. How rarely they actually listen. By staying quiet, he learned more about people than he ever did by talking. He learned that oversharing invites unnecessary opinions. Opinions create doubt. Doubt creates delay. Before, every plan he shared became smaller, not because it was bad, but because too many voices entered it. Now, his plan stayed clear, untouched, strong. He began to understand that growth is private. Seeds grow underground, roots form in darkness. If you dig up a seed every day to check its progress, it will die. His silence became his soil. There were moments he wanted to speak, to explain his choices, to defend his pace, to prove himself. But he resisted, because proving yourself is exhausting. People who understand you do not need explanations. People who don't will never be satisfied anyway. This was not easy. Silence requires discipline. It requires confidence. It requires trust in yourself. But slowly, he felt stronger. His mind became less crowded. His decisions became faster. His emotions became steadier. He no longer reacted to every comment. He no longer answered every question. He no longer fought every misunderstanding. Peace entered his life quietly, and with peace came clarity. He began to see his goals more clearly, not influenced by trends, not shaped by others' opinions, but aligned with his own values. Silence did not make him invisible. It made him grounded. This was the second lesson. Silence is not weakness. It is self-respect. And this lesson would change how he moved in the world forever. Confidence that does not need to speak. Before, he thought confidence was loud. People who talked a lot. People who explained everything. People who always had something to say. He believed confidence meant being visible, being noticed, being admired. But silence slowly taught him otherwise. He noticed something strange. The more he stayed quiet, the less he felt the need to impress. The less he needed to impress, the calmer he became. That calmness felt different. It was not excitement. It was not motivation. It was stability. Real confidence, he learned, does not rush to speak. It listens. It observes. It waits. He started paying attention to people who truly carried confidence. They did not talk over others. They did not explain themselves again and again. They did not react emotionally to every comment. They were steady. When someone disagreed, they did not argue. When someone doubted them, they did not panic. When someone questioned them, they did not feel attacked. They knew who they were, and that knowledge made words unnecessary. He realized that insecurity is noisy. It defends itself. It proves itself. It asks for validation. Confidence does not beg. In the past, when someone criticized him, his mind would explode. He would replay the words. He would feel angry. He would want to respond immediately. Now, silence gave him distance. Distance gave him control. He learned that not every comment deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves attention. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Some battles are won by not entering them. This changed how he spoke. When he did speak, his words carried weight. Because they were not wasted, people started listening more. Not because he demanded attention, but because he no longer chased it. He also learned something uncomfortable. Some people felt threatened by his silence. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop asking for permission. And not everyone is comfortable with that. But confidence grows when you choose yourself over approval. He began trusting his inner voice. That voice was quiet, but it was honest. It did not shout. It did not rush. It did not compare. It simply guided him forward. Confidence, he understood, is built alone. In private decisions, in quiet discipline, in moments nobody sees, not in public approval. He stopped announcing his goals. He started working on them. He stopped telling people how hard life was. He started handling it. He stopped asking, "Do you think I can do this?" and started asking, "What is the next step?" That shift changed everything. Confidence became a result, not a performance. And for the first time, he felt strong without needing to be seen as strong. This was the third lesson. Silence does not hide confidence. It builds it. Silence creates focus. When he stopped talking so much, something unexpected happened. He had more time, not more hours in the day, but more mental space. Before, his mind was always busy, thinking about what to say, what to share, how people would react, what they would think. Those thoughts consumed energy. Quietly, constantly, silence removed that noise. He noticed he could sit longer with one task, read without checking his phone, work without explaining his process to anyone, think without interruption, focus returned, and focus felt powerful. He realized that distraction is not always external. Sometimes it comes from the need to be seen, the need to update others, the need to share progress too early. Every time he shared, he broke his own concentration. Now, he kept his work private, not secretive, just protected. He began to understand why people who achieve big things often move quietly. They are not hiding, they are focusing. Focus needs silence the way fire needs oxygen, control. Too much exposure kills it. He learned to guard his attention. No random conversations, no unnecessary debates, no explaining his goals to people who were not part of the journey. This was not arrogance. It was strategy. With focus, he could see his weaknesses clearly, without judgment, without shame. He worked on them patiently, one small improvement at a time. Silence allowed him to hear himself think, to notice patterns, to recognize excuses. That was uncomfortable, because distraction hides flaws. Silence exposes them, but exposure is the first step to growth. He stopped multitasking, stopped rushing, stopped pretending to be busy. Instead, he became effective. He noticed that progress accelerated when he stopped announcing it, because there was no pressure to perform, only work to do. This focus changed his confidence again. Now, it was rooted in competence, not words. He no longer needed motivation, speeches. Focus replaced motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Focus stays when discipline is present. Silence made discipline easier. Less noise, less temptation, less comparison, just action. This was the fourth lesson. Silence is not empty time. It is concentrated power. And with focus, he was finally moving forward faster than ever before. Silence ends the game of comparison. Before silence entered his life, comparison controlled his mind. He compared progress. He compared speed. He compared results. Everywhere he looked, someone seemed ahead, more successful, more confident, more admired. Comparison followed him quietly, on his phone, in conversations, in his own thoughts, and comparison drained him. When he started speaking less and sharing less, something changed. The comparisons slowly lost power, not immediately, not magically, but steadily. He realized something important. Comparison needs information to survive. The more you watch others, the more you listen to their stories, the more you expose yourself to their highlights, the stronger comparison becomes. Silence reduced that exposure. He stopped asking people about their progress, stopped checking updates constantly, stopped measuring his life against someone else's timeline. And in that quiet space, he could finally see his own path clearly. Comparison is unfair because you only see outcomes, never the sacrifices, never the failures, never the doubts. Silence helped him understand that everyone hides parts of their story. He stopped assuming others had it easier. He stopped assuming he was behind. Behind? Compared to whom? Ahead compared to what? Those questions lost meaning. He understood that life is not a race with others. It is a contract with yourself. Silence gave him distance from other people's noise. Distance brought clarity. He no longer felt jealous when someone succeeded, because he was focused on his own growth. Jealousy fades when direction is clear. He also noticed something else. When he stopped talking about his plans, fewer people tried to compete with him. Some competition is created by oversharing. When people know your goals, they compare themselves to you. They project their fears onto you. They question your choices. Silence protects you from that energy. He learned that not everyone who asks about your life wants the best for you. Some want reassurance that they are doing better. Some want confirmation that they are ahead. Silence denies them that comparison, and in return, it gives you peace. Without constant comparison, his motivation became cleaner. He worked because it mattered to him, not to prove anything, not to win against someone else. This was freeing. He stopped rushing, stopped panicking, stopped feeling late. There is no late when you are on your own path. Silence reminded him that growth is internal before it is visible, and internal growth cannot be compared. This was the fifth lesson. Silence does not isolate you. It separates you from unnecessary competition, and in that separation, real progress begins. Silence strengthens emotional control. Before silence became part of his life, his emotions controlled him. Small comments could ruin his mood. Simple criticism could stay in his head for days. One bad conversation could destroy his focus. He reacted quickly, sometimes with anger, sometimes with sadness, sometimes with words he later regretted. He thought this was passion. He thought this meant he cared. But silence showed him the truth. Reaction is not strength. Control is. When he started speaking less, he also started reacting less. Not because he did not feel emotions, but because he no longer let them control his actions. Silence created a pause, a small space between feeling and responding, and in that space, he found power. He learned that emotions rise like waves. If you react immediately, they crash over you. If you wait, they pass. Silence taught him to wait. When someone criticized him, he no longer defended himself instantly. He listened. He observed his own reaction. He asked himself one question: is this worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer was no. This changed everything. He stopped giving emotional reactions to people who wanted attention. He stopped feeding negativity. He stopped arguing with people who had already decided not to understand him. That control made him feel mature, grounded, stable. He realized that emotional control is not about suppressing feelings. It is about choosing responses. Silence helped him process emotions privately, without judgment, without audience. He allowed himself to feel anger without acting on it, to feel sadness without drowning in it, to feel disappointment without losing direction. This self-control made him resilient. When problems appeared, he stayed calm. When pressure increased, he slowed down. When stress attacked, he became quiet. Others noticed this. They saw that he was not easily shaken, that he did not react impulsively, that he stayed composed. And that composure became a form of respect. He learned that loud emotions attract chaos. Quiet strength attracts trust. Silence also taught him something difficult. Not every emotion needs expression. Some emotions need understanding. Some need rest. Some need time. Sharing emotions too quickly often weakens them. Processing them quietly often transforms them. He stopped dumping feelings on others. He stopped expecting people to fix what he had not yet understood himself. That responsibility made him stronger. This was the sixth lesson. Silence does not make you cold. It makes you emotionally intelligent. And emotional intelligence is what allows you to survive pressure, failure, and uncertainty without breaking. Silence builds real trust. Before, he believed trust was built through words, explaining intentions, making promises, talking about values. He thought the more he explained himself, the more people would trust him. But silence taught him a different lesson. Words are easy. Consistency is not. When he stopped talking so much, people started watching him instead. They observed his behavior, his choices, his reactions, and behavior speaks louder than any explanation ever could. He noticed that when he made fewer promises, he broke fewer. When he spoke less, his words mattered more. People stopped asking him what he planned to do. They waited to see what he would actually do. That shift changed his relationships. Trust stopped being emotional. It became logical. He showed up on time. He finished what he started. He stayed calm under pressure. He did not gossip. He did not complain unnecessarily. These small actions created a reputation, not built in conversations, built in silence. He learned that real trust is quiet. It does not need announcements. It does not need defense. People who talk a lot about honesty often need to prove it. People who live honestly do not. Silence protected his integrity. When conflicts appeared, he did not rush to explain himself. He listened. He allowed time to reveal the truth. And time always does. He understood that trust grows when you are predictable in the right way, not boring, reliable. Silence helped him become reliable. He no longer reacted emotionally. He no longer changed direction based on opinions. He no longer overcommitted to please others. This stability made people feel safe around him. They knew he would not overpromise. They knew he would not disappear under pressure. They knew he would not create unnecessary drama, and that is rare. He also learned that silence exposes fake trust. Some people only trust you when you are loud, when you share everything, when you depend on their approval, when you become quiet and independent. Those connections weaken. That is not loss. That is clarity. Silence filters relationships. The ones based on attention fade. The ones based on respect remain. This was not loneliness. It was alignment. He began to value fewer, deeper connections, conversations with meaning, silence without awkwardness. He learned that trust does not need constant reassurance. It grows in consistent action over time. This was the seventh lesson. Silence is not distance. It is reliability. And reliability is the foundation of respect, leadership, and lasting relationships. Silence removes drama and toxic energy. Before silence, drama followed him everywhere, not because he wanted it, but because he was always available to it. Every complaint found his ears. Every argument pulled him in. Every misunderstanding demanded his opinion. He thought being involved meant being kind. He thought listening to everything made him supportive. But slowly, he realized something painful. Some people do not want solutions. They want chaos. And chaos feeds on attention. When he became quieter, drama lost interest in him. Not immediately. At first, people tried harder. They pushed conversations. They repeated stories. They exaggerated problems. But he did not react. He listened without fueling. He responded without emotion. He stayed neutral. And neutrality is poison to drama. Without reactions, drama dies. He noticed that toxic people depend on emotional responses. Anger, agreement, validation. Silence denies all of these. He stopped gossiping, not because he felt superior, but because gossip polluted his mind. He learned that talking about others distracts you from fixing yourself. Silence cleaned his mental space. He also realized that not every problem needs his involvement. Some situations resolve themselves when you step back. Silence gave him boundaries without confrontation. He did not argue. He did not explain. He simply disengaged. This confused toxic people because they are used to resistance, not absence. He learned that peace often requires disappointment. Disappointing people who expect access to your energy. And that is okay. He stopped trying to be everyone's emotional support, not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. Helping others should not destroy you. Silence allowed him to choose his battles carefully, and most battles were not worth fighting. He began to feel lighter, less tension, less anger, less emotional exhaustion. The world did not change, but his position in it did. He understood that avoiding drama is not avoidance. It is wisdom. This was the eighth lesson. Silence is not weakness. It is emotional hygiene. And with less toxicity in his life, he finally had energy for growth. Silence forces you to face yourself. When silence stayed longer in his life, something uncomfortable happened. He could no longer escape himself. Before, noise protected him. Conversations, social media, other people's problems, other people's opinions. All of that kept him busy, distracted. Silence removed those distractions. Now, when he sat alone, there was nowhere to run, no one to blame, no one to impress, no one to hide behind, just him. At first, this was difficult. His thoughts became louder before they became quieter. He started noticing patterns. Excuses he repeated, fears he avoided, dreams he delayed. Silence showed him the truth without judgment. He saw how often he waited for the perfect moment. How often he doubted himself before even trying. How often fear disguised itself as logic. This realization hurt, but it was honest. He learned that self-knowledge is not comfortable. It does not flatter you. It does not protect your ego, but it sets you free. In silence, he asked hard questions. Why do I want this? What am I afraid of losing? Who am I trying to impress? Some answers surprised him. Others disappointed him. But all of them helped him grow. He realized that many of his struggles were internal, not caused by others, not caused by circumstances, caused by hesitation, by doubt, By lack of clarity, silence made those things visible, and once something is visible, it can be changed. He began accepting parts of himself he used to fight, his slow pace, his cautious nature, his need for meaning. He stopped forcing himself to be someone else. Self-acceptance did not make him lazy, it made him focused. He no longer wasted energy pretending, he invested it in improvement. Silence taught him that knowing yourself is more powerful than motivating yourself. Motivation pushes you temporarily. Self-knowledge guides you permanently. He started aligning his actions with who he truly was, not with expectations, not with pressure. This alignment brought peace, and peace brought consistency. This was the 9th lesson. Silence is not empty time. It is a mirror, and when you are brave enough to look into it, you begin to change from the inside out. Silence sharpens your decisions. As silence became a constant part of his life, his decisions began to change. Not in speed at first, but in quality. Before, he made decisions emotionally, based on pressure, based on urgency, based on what others expected. He often decided quickly, not because he was confident, but because he wanted the discomfort to end. He wanted approval, he wanted certainty, he wanted relief. And many of those decisions led him into situations he later regretted. Silence slowed him down. For the first time, he stopped reacting and started choosing. When a new opportunity appeared, he did not rush. He sat with it. He thought quietly. He asked himself real questions. Does this align with my values? Does this move me forward or distract me? Am I choosing this out of fear or intention? Silence gave him patience, and patience revealed truth. He realized that bad decisions are often loud. They come with pressure, with urgency, with emotional noise. Good decisions are quiet. They feel calm, stable, clear. This understanding changed everything. He stopped saying yes to everything, stopped chasing every opportunity, stopped fearing missed chances. He learned that every yes costs something: time, energy, focus. Silence helped him see those costs clearly. Before, he confused movement with progress. Now, he understood that direction matters more than speed. Some paths look attractive but lead nowhere. Some paths look boring but build foundations. Silence helped him choose foundations. He also noticed that when he stopped explaining his decisions to everyone, he trusted them more himself. Explaining invites doubt. Too many opinions weaken clarity. By deciding quietly, he owned his choices fully. When mistakes happened, he did not blame others, because the decision was his. This responsibility made him stronger. Silence taught him to wait before committing, to observe patterns, to learn from history. He stopped repeating the same mistakes because he finally saw them. He understood that clarity does not come from thinking harder. It comes from removing noise. Noise hides intuition. Silence reveals it. His intuition became sharper, not emotional, not impulsive, informed, grounded. He learned to trust that inner signal, not because it felt good, but because it was consistent. This made his life simpler. Fewer regrets, fewer rushed decisions, fewer unnecessary complications. People noticed his calm. They noticed he was harder to pressure, harder to manipulate, because silence made him unmovable without reason. This was the 10th lesson. Silence does not slow you down. It prevents costly mistakes, and decisions made in clarity build a life that does not need constant fixing. Silence builds true independence. Before, he relied on others too much. He sought approval constantly. He depended on opinions, validation, and feedback to feel confident. Even small decisions were influenced by what others thought. He believed independence meant doing what he wanted openly, but he didn't realize true independence starts inside. Silence taught him differently. By speaking less and sharing less, he stopped needing approval. By observing more, he understood patterns without influence. By thinking quietly, he could make decisions without external pressure. He learned that independence is not rebellion. It is clarity. It is being guided by your own understanding rather than fear or desire for recognition. At first, it felt strange. He wanted to share his plans. He wanted someone to say, "Yes, you are doing the right thing." He wanted reassurance, but silence made him see the truth. Reassurance is temporary. Reliance on others creates fragility. True independence does not ask for permission. It does not need applause. It does not need explanation. He started making choices privately, small choices at first. What to focus on in a day, what habits to start or stop, how to respond to challenges. No one needed to know, no one needed to approve. And slowly, a new power grew. He noticed that when decisions came without discussion, he felt lighter. No debates, no pressure, no expectation. He stopped over-explaining to friends, family, or colleagues. He stopped asking for advice unless it was truly needed. He stopped comparing his choices to others. Silence became a shield, not from the world, but from distraction and dependency. With that shield, he could act freely, think clearly, grow personally. He understood that independence is built over time, not in one bold move, not in loud statements, but in consistent, quiet decisions. Every choice made with intention strengthened him. Every decision kept to himself built resilience. Every moment of patience created power. People around him noticed the change. They saw a steady, calm person who did not depend on their approval. They saw someone who acted, not reacted. Some were inspired, some were uncomfortable, because independence makes others reflect on their own reliance. It is not always welcomed. He also realized something crucial. Independence is lonely at first, not because no one cares, but because dependent people feel threatened by someone who stands alone. That was okay. Silence helped him accept solitude as part of growth. He learned that discomfort is temporary, but strength is permanent. True independence also builds self-trust. When he made a decision alone and it worked, confidence increased. When it failed, he learned responsibility instead of blame. He no longer feared mistakes. He no longer feared judgment. Because he relied on himself first, this independence made him proactive, no longer waiting for guidance or validation, no longer influenced by every opinion, no longer trapped. Silence builds true independence. Before, he relied on others too much. He sought approval constantly. He depended on opinions, validation, and feedback to feel confident. Even small decisions were influenced by what others thought. He believed independence meant doing what he wanted openly. But he didn't realize true independence starts inside. Silence taught him differently. By speaking less and sharing less, he stopped needing approval. By observing more, he understood patterns without influence. By thinking quietly, he could make decisions without external pressure. He learned that independence is not rebellion. It is clarity. It is being guided by your own understanding rather than fear or desire for recognition. At first, it felt strange. He wanted to share his plans. He wanted someone to say, "Yes, you are doing the right thing." He wanted reassurance. But silence made him see the truth. Reassurance is temporary. Reliance on others creates fragility. True independence does not ask for permission. It does not need applause. It does not need explanation. He started making choices privately, small choices at first. What to focus on in a day, what habits to start or stop, how to respond to challenges. No one needed to know, no one needed to approve. And slowly, a new power grew. He noticed that when decisions came without discussion, he felt lighter. No debates, no pressure, no expectation. He stopped over-explaining to friends, family, or colleagues. He stopped asking for advice unless it was truly needed. He stopped comparing his choices to others. Silence became a shield, not from the world, but from distraction and dependency. With that shield, he could act freely, think clearly, grow personally. He understood that independence is built over time, not in one bold move, not in loud statements, but in consistent, quiet decisions. Every choice made with intention strengthened him. Every decision kept to himself built resilience. Every moment of patience created power. People around him noticed the change. They saw a steady, calm person who did not depend on their approval. They saw someone who acted, not reacted. Some were inspired, some were uncomfortable, because independence makes others reflect on their own reliance. It is not always welcomed. He also realized something crucial. Independence is lonely at first, not because no one cares, but because dependent people feel threatened by someone who stands alone. That was okay. Silence helped him accept solitude as part of growth. He learned that discomfort is temporary, but strength is permanent. True independence also builds self-trust. When he made a decision alone and it worked, confidence increased. When it failed, he learned responsibility instead of blame. He no longer feared mistakes. He no longer feared judgment. Because he relied on himself first, this independence made him proactive, no longer waiting for guidance or validation, no longer influenced by every opinion, no longer trapped by fear of others' expectations. He began setting his own pace, defining his own standards, creating his own path. Silence was not withdrawal, it was empowerment. Every quiet moment reinforced the lesson. Independence grows in private, strength grows in stillness, confidence grows in silence. This was the 11th lesson. Independence is not being alone. It is being aligned with yourself. And alignment is the foundation of every success, decision, and meaningful connection in life. Silence creates consistent growth. Before, he wanted to grow fast. He wanted instant results. He measured progress by visible signs, likes, approval, praise, recognition. But fast growth often brings burnout, shallow results, temporary success. Silence changed his approach. When he embraced quiet, he could observe himself honestly. He could see habits he needed to build, weaknesses to improve, skills to sharpen. Without constant distraction, he could focus on incremental progress. He realized that learning is cumulative. Small steps every day lead to enormous change over time. Not dramatic moves in public, not loud accomplishments for everyone to see. Silence allowed him to study deeply, read longer, practice more, reflect further. Before, he learned superficially, flipping pages, watching videos, reading articles, but rarely applying, rarely remembering, rarely internalizing. Now, quietness gave him attention, focus, retention, understanding. He began setting small goals, one new skill at a time, one chapter at a time, 1 minute longer of practice every day. No one knew, no one noticed, no applause awaited him, and that was powerful. He learned that the world values noise, announcements, updates, achievements displayed publicly. But real growth often happens quietly, where nobody is watching. Silence allowed him to measure himself against himself, not against others, not against social media highlights. Progress became personal. He also discovered the power of repetition. Small, consistent actions compound into massive results. Not flashy, not exciting, but unstoppable. Patience became his ally. Long-term focus became his habit. Consistency became his identity. He noticed that people around him were often impatient. They wanted instant results. They wanted praise. They wanted recognition. And when results didn't come fast, they quit. But he kept going, quietly, privately, relentlessly. Mistakes became learning moments. Failures became lessons. Setbacks became fuel. Silence made him reflective, not reactive. He began journaling quietly, tracking progress, recording failures and insights. He no longer compared his timeline with others. Each person moves at their own pace. Each person's journey is different. This understanding made him less anxious, less fearful, more patient. He noticed improvement everywhere, not dramatic, but steady. Every day, a little stronger. Every day, a little wiser. Every day, a little closer to the goals he defined quietly for himself. People started noticing results eventually, not because he boasted, not because he posted updates, but because consistent effort speaks louder than words. Silence made him disciplined. Focus became natural. Learning became a lifestyle. Growth became inevitable. He understood the 12th lesson clearly. True progress happens in private, in quiet, in consistency. Noise can make you feel productive, but silence makes you truly capable. And that capability lasts a lifetime. Silence unlocks deep thinking and creativity. Before, he thought creativity was loud. Big ideas shouted, plans announced, Opinions shared constantly. He believed the best thoughts came from discussion, from talking, from brainstorming with others. But silence showed him otherwise. When he spent long hours alone with his thoughts, something unexpected happened. Ideas grew quietly, connections formed naturally, solutions appeared that he never imagined while being distracted by noise. He realized that thinking deeply requires space. Space without interruption, space without judgment, space without comparison. Before, his mind was scattered. Half attention to social media, half attention to conversations, half attention to work. No wonder real insights were rare. Silence gave him focus, and focus gave him clarity. He began keeping a notebook, not to impress anyone, not to prove intelligence, but to capture thoughts before they vanished. He noticed patterns, solutions to problems, new perspectives, ideas for personal growth. This process transformed his approach to challenges. Before, he reacted to problems. Now, he responded with strategy. Creativity, he understood, is not spontaneous. It emerges from reflection, observation, and the quiet accumulation of knowledge. He also realized that noise kills imagination. Constant distraction prevents connections. Social media, necessary chatter, and comparison consume mental energy. Silence protects energy. Energy fuels ideas. Ideas create change. He began experimenting quietly, trying small projects alone, testing new methods without seeking approval, failing in private and learning in private. Failures lost their shame. Learning gained its value. Gradually, he became more creative, more innovative, more confident in his ideas. People around him noticed the difference. He was no longer reactive. He was thoughtful. He spoke less, but offered more insight. His solutions were not louder, they were stronger, more lasting. He learned that deep thinking cannot compete with noise. It thrives in stillness. This silence also allowed him to imagine bigger dreams. Not the dreams others expected, not the ones trending online, but dreams true to his values, skills, and potential. He stopped chasing trends. He stopped copying others. He began creating something unique, and in that creation, he found joy. Not external validation, not social applause, but the satisfaction of making something meaningful. This was the 13th lesson. Silence is not emptiness. It is the fertile ground where creativity grows. And the most important ideas often appear when no one is watching. Silence protects inner peace in hard times. As life continued, challenges did not disappear. Problems still came. Pressure still existed. Uncertainty still visited his days. Silence did not remove difficulties. It changed how he faced them. Before, when life became hard, his mind became chaotic. He overthought. He panicked. He spoke too much to the wrong people. Noise increased fear. Now, silence gave him stability. When something went wrong, his first reaction was no longer to speak. It was to pause. That pause mattered. In that pause, he could breathe. He could observe the situation without emotional exaggeration. He could separate facts from fear. Silence slowed the moment down. He learned that most stress does not come from the problem itself. It comes from the story we tell ourselves about the problem. Silence interrupts that story. When he stopped talking, his thoughts became clearer. What is in my control? What is not? What matters right now? These questions guided him calmly. Before, he tried to solve everything at once. Now, he solved one small thing at a time. Peace did not come from perfect outcomes. It came from calm responses. He noticed something powerful. People who remain calm in difficult moments influence everyone around them. Panic spreads quickly, but calm spreads deeper. His silence became reassuring. Others trusted him more during stressful situations. Because he did not amplify chaos, he realized that inner peace is not passive. It is strong. It resists pressure. It stands firm without aggression. Silence also protected him from emotional burnout. He no longer absorbed every problem as his own. He learned to care without carrying everything. That boundary saved his energy. He stopped reacting to bad news immediately. He stopped responding to stress with words. He responded with thought. This made his decisions wiser, his actions slower but stronger. He learned that calm minds see solutions. that anxious minds miss. Silence gave him access to that calm. Even when life felt unfair, silence reminded him of something important. Not everything needs a response today. Not everything needs control. Not everything defines your future. Time, patience, and clarity solve more problems than panic ever will. This was the 14th lesson. Silence does not make life easy. It makes you steady enough to handle it. And when you protect your inner peace, you protect the foundation of everything else in your life. Silence is the sign of maturity. Over time, silence stopped feeling like a strategy. It became part of who he was, not forced, not practiced, natural. He no longer used silence to protect himself from others. He used it because he understood himself. That understanding was maturity. Before, he believed maturity meant knowing many things, having answers, giving advice, being right. Silence showed him a deeper truth. Maturity is knowing when not to speak. He noticed how often people spoke out of fear. Fear of being ignored, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being seen as weak. He used to be like that. Now, he did not rush to fill every gap with words. He allowed pauses. He allowed silence in conversations. He allowed things to remain unsaid, and nothing broke. In fact, things improved. He learned that mature people do not argue to win. They listen to understand, or they walk away without resentment. They do not need to prove intelligence. They do not need to defend their worth. They do not need to explain their growth. Growth explains itself. Silence also changed how he saw success. Before, success meant being ahead of others, being noticed, being admired. Now, success meant alignment, living according to his values, making decisions he could respect, sleeping peacefully at night. He understood something many never realize. You can be busy and still be lost. You can be successful and still be empty. Silence helped him avoid that trap. He became selective with people, with opportunities, with commitments, not because he felt superior, but because his time and energy became valuable to him. Maturity is choosing quality over quantity, depth over noise, meaning over attention. He also stopped chasing certainty. He accepted that life will always contain uncertainty. Silence taught him how to sit with the unknown, without panic, without rushing. That calm acceptance was strength. He noticed younger versions of himself in others, talking too much, explaining too much, trying too hard. He did not judge them. He understood them. Because maturity also brings compassion, he learned that everyone grows at their own pace, and you cannot force awareness. It arrives when the person is ready. Silence became his language of respect, for himself, for others, for life. He no longer feared being misunderstood. Because he understood himself, he no longer feared being unseen, because his worth was not tied to attention. This was the 15th lesson. Silence is not emptiness. It is wisdom in its quiet form. And maturity is not about speaking less to appear strong. It is about no longer needing to speak to feel strong. Discipline is choosing yourself every day. He finally understood something most people never do. Motivation is not reliable. Feelings change. Energy comes and goes. But discipline is a decision you renew every day. Some mornings he woke up tired, empty, and unsure. Nothing felt exciting. Nothing felt meaningful. But he moved anyway, not because he felt strong, because he remembered who he was becoming. Discipline was not about being perfect. It was about showing up even when the mind begged for comfort. It was choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. Every small action became a vote for his future. Reading one page, writing one paragraph, saying no to distractions that once controlled him. Slowly, his identity changed. He stopped asking, "How do I feel today?" and started asking, "Who do I choose to be today?" That question changed everything. Responsibility creates freedom. For a long time, he blamed the world, his past, other people, bad luck, and for a long time, nothing changed. The moment he accepted full responsibility, something strange happened. He felt lighter. Responsibility did not mean guilt. It meant power. If his life was his responsibility, then it was also his creation. He stopped waiting for permission, stopped waiting for support, stopped waiting for the right time. He understood that freedom is not given. Freedom is built. Every excuse removed another brick from the prison he once lived in. Every honest choice expanded his inner space. Life did not become easier, but it became clearer, and clarity is a form of freedom. The quiet confidence of growth. He did not feel superior to others. He felt grounded. The need to prove himself disappeared. Comparison lost its grip. He measured progress differently now, not by speed, not by praise, but by consistency. He noticed the small changes. His reactions were calmer, his thoughts were sharper, his choices were cleaner. Confidence grew quietly, not from success alone, but from self-trust. He trusted himself to continue even when results were slow. He trusted himself to recover after failure. He trusted himself to stay honest. That trust became his strength, and strength no longer needed noise. Becoming an example, not a speaker. People began to notice, not because he talked about growth, but because he lived it. He listened more, reacted less, helped without announcing it. He understood that real influence is invisible. It spreads through behavior, not words. His life became a message, a quiet one, but a powerful one. He no longer chased meaning. Meaning followed him, because when a person changes from the inside, the outside adjusts naturally. The journey never ends. He looked back, not with regret, but with understanding. Every mistake had taught him. Every delay had shaped him. He knew now that there is no final destination, only deeper awareness, better choices, stronger alignment. Growth was not a phase. It was a lifestyle, and the most important lesson of all was simple. You do not become better overnight. You become better by not quitting. If this story spoke to you, remember this. Change begins the moment you decide to take responsibility for your life. If you found value here, support the journey, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs clarity today. Your growth matters, and this is only the beginning. Goodbye for now.